Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Victor once again. So it's been long we've had this chit chat, and talking about an interesting topic today, comparing funding opportunities in the US versus funding opportunities in the UK. So do not get it twisted. Both countries are wonderful countries with numerous funding opportunities and also work opportunities and goodies like that. It is not a coincidence that both countries are one of the top destinations for international students. So whether you get into the UK and the US, I believe you are in safe hands. But still, for the sake of an argument, let's compare funding opportunities in the US versus funding opportunities in the UK. And I'll be looking at five major points in this comparison. So we will be looking at five major points. We will be looking at the quality of the funding in the US compared to the UK, the quantity of the funding as well, the opportunities of side hustles, post-work study opportunities, and also comparing what they call assistantships and scholarships. So we actually begin from this last point, assistantships versus scholarships. So in the US, generally, you have what they call assistantships, and in the UK, you have generally what they call scholarships. So I'm using the word generally here because there are a number of exceptions here and there. So I'm looking at it as a whole instead of particular instances. So what are assistantships? As the name implies, assistantships are fundings you get where in return you work for the department. So you work either as a teaching assistant, a research assistant, or an administrative assistant. So it's like a quid pro quo. They're waiving your tuition, they're giving you a monthly stipend and things like insurance and other benefits. And in exchange, you're teaching or managing the lab or helping research something or doing a number of administrative work. So this is quite common in the US. In the UK, on the contrary, you have more scholarships and there is no quid pro quo, no reciprocity. So you're just there, you do your studies, and you don't need to necessarily work for the university or for the department. And you might ask, oh, Victor, aren't you working as a teaching assistant in the UK? Yes, that is true. I'm working as a teaching assistant, but it's not connected to my funding. So I have a PhD funding that I get every month. Then I applied for the teaching assistantships separately. So I have a number of classmates who are not working, but they receive their monthly stipend. So the teaching assistantship is just like an extra source of income and also experience, and not tied to my scholarship. But this is the opposite in the US. You cannot say you don't want to teach because your funding is tied to your teaching or to your research or whatever duties you're doing for the department. So in your own estimation, which do you prefer? Which do you like? And let's go to the second point, which is connected to this one, and it's about side hustles. Which country enables you to work on side hustles? Well, in the UK, you're allowed to work extra, or not extra, but 20 hours a week as an international student. And since you do not have any departmental responsibilities, as we discussed earlier, you can use your 20 hours for whatever you want to do, whether job opportunities on campus or job opportunities outside campus. Like I got a job in my department on campus, and I think it's quite that is quite appropriate to my discipline, to my research interest, to my career aim. So I'm quite thrilled about it. A number of people might decide to go and work in a bar or work in the hospital or work in a shopping mall. You're free to do that. But in the US, it's a little bit more challenging because you do not have that wiggle room, because your funding is tied to you're already working for the department. And even for those self-funded, they do not have this wiggle room to work outside the department or outside their universities most of the time. You have to be connected. Whatever job you're doing has to be connected to your university. And for a number of people, it might be quite restrictive. But to do your research and find out, do not take my word for it. So what about the quality of or let's go to the quantity of the scholarship? Who gives more scholarships, the US or the UK? I think the answer here is a little bit obvious. The US gives more scholarship because there are more universities in the US. The US is bigger, so more funding opportunities. However, it is often said that for masters, or particularly taught masters, you have more opportunities in the UK than in the US, because the US funds more of research masters and PhDs than taught masters. I've made a distinction before. Taught masters is the masters where you go to class, then take exams on the classes you took, and then probably there might be one or two research at the end. It's not compulsory. You might have a dissertation at the end. But for a research master's, you're going there primarily for a particular topic. You're going there to do that research, and your master's degree will be based on the quality of the research you're able to do. So you have lots of things like that in the US than in the UK. So for taught masters, I prefer the UK, or there are more opportunities or more publicized opportunities in the UK. You have things like Chevening, Commonwealth, MasterCard, Reuters, Gates Foundation. We don't have a number of them like that in the US. So that you have probably departmental research opportunities. When it comes to PhDs though, there are lots of funded PhD opportunities in the US. In fact, if you get a PhD admission in the US, you're likely, 90% likely to get full funding. But it's not the same with the UK. You might get a PhD admission with zero funding. So that's one thing you might want to look at. So let's look at post-work opportunities. Post-work opportunities. Or before then, you might want to check out how much do these countries pay. Yes, how much do they pay? That's the quality, probably, if I can call it that. The quality of the scholarships, and then we'll go to post-work opportunities. So the quality, how much does it entail? On average in the US, graduates are paid about $24,000 per annum. So it's like $2,000 per month. And this varies from university to university. Some of the Ivy Leagues will pay close to 30, I think I've even seen about 36. And some schools will pay as low as 18 per year, and that's quite a struggle if you ask me. Because a number of friends I have in the US say their rent is close to $1,000. Now let's say 800, and if you move 800 from 2,000, how much is remaining? So it depends on the city you live in as well, because some cities are more expensive than the others. So you do your mathematics, that's what I'm trying to say. So when you see the admission document or the funding document, yeah, it's good to rejoice with the awardees, but look at the price tag, or the quantity or quality rather, the quality of the scholarship. How much are they actually paying? Because it might just be lower than the minimum wage. So in the UK, on the contrary, there's a standard. So there's an academic board that gives a standard that every university should comply with. So like a master's, if you're in a master's scholarship, it shouldn't be less than £900 or £1,000 as living allowance. And for a PhD, I think it's about £1,200, £1,300 a month. So there's like this, they've calculated the normal living wage of a normal student. And they said, if you're going to give somebody a scholarship, make sure it's up to this bar. If you're going to give a fully funded scholarship, make sure it's up to this bar. So there's like a minimum wage regime when it comes to funding in the UK, but still it depends on what city are you living in, how expensive it is, because living in London is far different from living in Birmingham or in Coventry. So US, UK, it just depends on where you're staying and what the university is prepared to offer you. But in the UK, they have like a minimum. You can't go below that minimum because it's below the minimum living wage, if that makes sense. So finally, let's go to post-work opportunities. So in the UK, you're allowed now to stay for 2 years after your studies to look for a job. And for a PhD student, you can stay for 3 years actually to look for a job. In the US, it depends on what you studied. So those in the STEM field, that's science, technology, engineering, medicine, I think are allowed up to 2 years, sometimes even 3 years. While those in the non-STEM discipline, like probably, I don't know, anthropology or the liberal arts or something, are only allowed to stay there for 1 year. So it's a little bit shorter, depending on the course you do. But still, it is argued that the US presents more opportunities because it's a bigger country It's a bigger economy, so you tend to get more opportunities there than in the UK, which is a smaller, much smaller country, an island country, and quite tight, quite competitive as well. So it depends on you. What funding do you want? Which one do you think is best for you? And if you ask me, why not both? Last year, I applied to both the US and the UK, and I got scholarships from both countries. So I decided to come to the UK instead because I feel there are a number of reasons for that, but I felt then that the UK was a better option, and I do not regret that's the decision at all. And that's me. You might say I'm biased because I am in the UK, but make your own evaluation and comment below which you prefer and why you prefer that country. So it's left to you. You're free to disagree with me, by the way. I'm open to the corrections. I'm open to being challenged on these points. Make your own evaluation and tell me which one you prefer. And yes, that's the end of this video, and thanks for sticking by, and until next one, I'll see you at the top. Bye bye for now.